Hello, welcome back. In this video, we will talk about queries in D365 Financial Operation. And in this video, we will talk about the static query. So, in Dynamics 365, there is a different types of query available. For example, there is a static query, there is a dynamic query. Dynamic query means you can able to write the code inside your class or inside your XPP file, and there you can create your code using the QBDS data sources. You can also join, but in this particular video we will talk about the static query, that is the AOT query. So before going further, you can see that I have a project here, and if you want to add a query, then you have to right click on it, and then you have to add a new item, and after that you can see that there is a data model, and inside the data model we have a query section. So you have to select it and you have to give the name of the query, and then you have to add that query. So this way I have just added this query, you can see. And in this query you can see there is a 3 different nodes: methods, events, and data sources. So we will talk about each and everything here one by one. So what is actually a static query? The static query is nothing but predefined queries that can be accessed from the application object tree, that is AOT. In Microsoft Dynamics AX, static queries are located in the queries node. So if we'll go into the AOT, there is a various types of node available here, right? So where you will get in the query, there will be a section, you can see data models, and inside the data models you can see there is queries. So inside this you will be able to see all the standard queries here, okay, and you can create your own query also. So inside this we can have the methods, there is a data sources, and dependent object can be there. That means if we want to add 2 different data sources, then we have to add inside this data sources, okay. Or there can be a composite data sources query also you can write, and each data source node have some specific set of nodes is available, which is field, range. Again, inside this database data sources you can join another data source, and you have to specify here, okay. Then you can inside the data source you can see that there is a group by having order. So this way you can group by your data. There is a having clause you can add, and you can order ascending and descending order. And also you can see that there is a method. So by default there is a class declaration is only here. So if you want to override any code, override any method, then you can just right click, and you can see that there is a several methods are actually available. You can just override that. So by default the method node displays all the methods available from a query. In this node you can add a new method to a query. You can also override methods on the query run system class, that is a system class query run, and your own code to the class, actually class methods inherited from the query run class, okay. So if you'll right click on that query, and if you'll go click on the view code, you can see that this query, your query is actually extending the query run class. So you have to remember that, and we are extending the methods of the query run system class. So I'll show you one example, one requirement, and based on the requirement I will create a query and I'll show you how to do that. So in the system I have two different there is a department table, and in the right side you can see that is a employee table. Okay, and you can see there is a department D01, 02 and 03 here, and employee is and there is a employee 01 to 06, and there is a department relationship. There is a relationship between the department table and the employee table. The common field here is the department ID here, and you can see it is actually repeated. So one employee is actually working in a particular department. So the question maybe arise, or you have to write a query, employee works in the computer engineering department. So you have to write a query, those employees actually working in the computer science department. So our expected output will be like this. So only employees 01 and 02 is working in the department D0 and D0, and other all the employees are not working in the computer science computer engineering department. So here you can see there is a mistake of it should be D01 and it should be computer engineering, it should be. So just let me remove that. So it should be, output should be D01 and the department will be computer science engineering, and I have to select computer science. I'm just pasted that one, and this will be our expected result or the output. Okay, now I'll show you how to do that. So here in this right side you can see there is a department table, and inside the department table we have field department ID and department name, and I have a employee table in here, and in the employee table you can see how we have a field employee ID, employee name and a department ID. So we'll use these two tables in our query. So in the data source section you can see that I have a department table here. I have just added that one, and you have to, if you will go in the properties section, you can see that the table name is actually specified here. Okay, and I want to order by using the department ID, so that is why you have to just copy and paste the field from your data source. So first of all, if you'll click on the field, and if you'll go to the properties, not in the field, you have to specify it. You have to go to the properties of the data source, and when you will go to the data source properties, there is a dynamic field. So first, if you want to auto populate your fields, then you have to select this yes, and after that you can specify no to edit all those fields. So whatever field will be required there, it will you can see when you will select the dynamic fields to yes, all the partition ID, rec ID will be added here. If it is required, you can keep it, otherwise you can delete all those. So at this point of time I am just keeping only the department ID and department name and rec ID. So that's it. But I want to join the data source with another data source, that is actually employee table. So that is why I just specified the data source here. So if we'll go to the properties of the table or the data source, you will be able to see here we have a table name. You have to specify the table, that is RA employee table, and the name will automatically come. And after that again, if you want to auto populate your dynamic fields, then you can select, and after that you can select no to edit those. So here you can see I have a department ID, department employee ID and name. And one important thing is there, you have to specify the relationship between this data source employee table and the department table. So if there will be a relationship inside your table level, then that relations you can take it, and if there is no relationship you can create it by using this. You can just right click and create a new relationship. And after that, when you will click, there you have to specify few things in the property section, that you are creating the relationship with the DAR department table with the department ID. And you can see here that we are creating the relationship department ID and with the department table and employee table with the department ID. So this is the thing, and you have to specify the range now. So how you will do that? So based on the department ID, I want to filter out the data. That means those who are actually working in the computer science engineering department, computer engineering department, that data should be populated. All other data should not be come as an output. So that is why you have to specify the range here. So range, when you will add the range, how we can do that? You can right click and new range, and after that you have to set the properties. And in this property section you can see there I have to specify the department ID, already specified the field. And in the value section you have to give the value of that department. So this is a static one. So we already know that for the computer science engineering department, the department ID is actually D01. That is why we are actually giving the value here D01. So if you will compile to execute this one, you have to, so our query actually ready. So there is another different aggregation function will be there. And another important thing here is that there you can create various other aggregation functions. For example, if there will be a employee table, and if the employee are getting the salaries, and if you want to sum up the salaries all the employees in the department ID 01, then you can create a new field like this, or like you can use the sum field here, you can use the average field here, you can mean field here, max field here. So if you want to sum the value, then you have to group by the data. So which is very much important to group by the data for the summation. If you want to use that feature, you can use that. So in the later video maybe we will show you how to use this kind of aggregation function, sum, count, all these things. Now if you want to use it in the real life, so what you can do, you can just create a view of this query, and you can access that view from your code. Also, if you want to access directly using the code, you can also do that. I'll show you each and everything, but for that you have to first save the code, and you have to build your project. You have to build your project, and you have to sync your project. So you have to go here and just right click, and I already synced the project, that is why sync is not available here. But you can build and sync your project, otherwise it will not available in the SQL. So you can actually easily access this query in your code. So I'll show you how you can access that one. Now I'll show you how you can access that query using your code. So for that reason I have just created one runnable class. So I'll show you that how to create a runnable class if you don't know. So for that you just have to create the right click on that project and add a new item, and after that there is a code section in Dynamics 365 item, and from there you can add a runnable class, and you have to give the name of that class and just click on the add button. So this way I have just added this class, runnable class. So inside this you will get a method which is a main method, and inside this we have to create our code, we have to write our code. So there you can see I have just created two buffer, one is for the department table and another one for the employee table, and here you have to take your query. How you can do that? Using the query class you have to create a instance or create a object, and inside this query class you have to pass the name of your query. If you remember that our query name was static, this one, static query department employee, this one. So we have just pass that name static query department employee here, and to run your query just you have to create another object that is actually query run. So inside your query run all your rows or the result will be stored when you will run that query. So to hover each and every items or each and every row inside the keyword, we have to use the while loop, and if you will apply the next method here, so it will loop through each and every row inside that keyword. Okay, so now this time we want to print each and every row in a specific format. So for that you have to specify just I want to take the data from the department table. So I'm just giving a simple name that is taking the inside the buffer we are storing the keyword.get table name. We have to specify the table name, and there you have to give the table, and you have to specify one here. So what is one here? So one is nothing but is a occurrence. So we are just taking one here, but we don't require this one because we are not using in our code. If you want to print out any value from the employee table, then you have to take the buffer, you have to take the inside the buffer you have to take the result from the employee table, and after that we are just printing out in a specific format that is department ID, and from the department table also we are printing out the department name from the department table here itself. So if you want to see the result, how it is actually printing out the result, for that first I want to show what I have inside my employee table. Inside the employee table you can see like below this result, there is a department D1 to D1, D2, D2 and D3 is there, and employee name is there, employee ID is there, and I have also a department table. Here is our department table D0, D2, D02, D03, D01, and here is the department. So if you will run the code, you will get the department ID D01 and the department name here. So here only department D01 is actually coming because in the range we have specified D01 only, so that is why the D01 actually coming. Okay, now you have seen the previous result. So now we'll access the field from the EMP table. you can see that I have added employee name and percentile 3, and at last I have just used the employee table dot employee name. So you already know that in our department 01 we have 2 employee. Here you can see there is a department 01, and that is a computer department, and inside the computer department D0 D01 D01, and you can see Rumman and Osman is working only in the department 1, and I want to name of those employees who is actually working in the department department 01. So here is our result. If you will compile that code, you will get this type of result: the department ID here, department name, and the employee name here. So based on your requirement, you can take the value of any field which is present inside your a buffer. Okay, so this way you can loop through each and every rows inside the inside the joining result. Okay, I hope this is clear for you, but one question may arise in your mind, that where we actually defined the join operation, right? So I already told that in your query, when you are writing your query, that time you are actually giving the two different data source. So inside one department table, this is actually related to the related table is actually employee table, and when you are specifying that inside your employee table, you have just created this relationship, right? So you have already know that we have just created that relationship. And if you'll go to the properties of the EMP table, there is one another properties here is there, that is actually join mode. So you can see by default it actually I have taken the inner join. So if you specify, it will take the inner join. If you want a different type of result in the joining operation, so that time you can specify that outer join. If you want it, then you have to specify in the join mode properties. Okay, but by default it will, if you will not specify anything, it will take the inner join. So basically in our D365 there is a 4 type of join operation is there. One is inner join. Inner join means the common data inside the two table, and outer join is there. There is a exist join and non-exist join. So based on your requirement, you have to specify your join mode. I hope this is clear for you. In the next video, if there will be a problem, there will be any problem in the aggregation function, we will cover it, and after that we will use this static query, AOT query, in our view, and we can utilize in our code, or you can directly view the data from the SQL itself. So we will see that in our later videos. So take care, bye bye, thank you, see you again in the next video.